Hello, welcome to Dungeoneers Pack, a channel bringing you player-focused discussions and character guides for 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. My name is Josh, thank you for watching. Feats can provide a substantial boost to your character's abilities, but when it comes to spellcasters, they are often overlooked. In this video, I'm going to go over feats that you should consider for your spellcaster character. I will be going over the mechanics of the feat, but also how you can incorporate them or have them influence your roleplay. Before we get started, an easy way to support this channel is to like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that notification bell to know when new videos are up. You can also support us directly at our Patreon by becoming a Dungeoneer. When you become a Dungeoneer, you get access to an exclusive role and a private chat in Discord, access to all the character build scripts, and you will be able to listen to an audio-only version of each week's video before it goes up. You can find a link to the Patreon in the description below. With that said, let's get started. The first feat you should consider as a spellcaster is Alert. Alert adds +5 to your initiative, you can't be surprised while you are conscious, and other creatures don't gain advantage on attack rolls against you as a result of being hidden. Not being surprised and suffering from various abilities that trigger off of being surprised is a huge defensive buff. The biggest effect this feat grants your character would be the huge bonus to your initiative. On average, this should put you on the top end of the initiative, which is a huge deal. Getting the drop on your enemy as a spellcaster tips the scale of the encounter in your favor considerably. Landing a crowd control spell on a prime target or dropping a massive damage spell on a group of enemies from the get-go could end the encounter before it even starts. Now let's look at how you can apply this to your character for roleplay. Alert is a great feat for a character that fills the leader role for the group. The feat could play into the idea that your character naturally takes charge, making the first move to set the tone for the rest of the party. Another angle to play up this feat is that your character is a battlefield tactician. Just like a character that is a leader who sets the tone of combat, a battlefield tactician knows to place a well-timed spell or maneuver to establish dominance in combat. The other idea is to play this up as a character that has experience, whether it's through life or training to be able to survive. They are constantly keeping aware of their surroundings to ensure their own safety. The second feat to consider is one that lets you play up the Elementalist character fantasy, Elemental Adept. This feat is exclusive to any type of spellcaster because in order to take this feat, you have to be able to cast at least one spell. Whenever you take this feat, choose between Acid, Cold, Fire, Lightning, or Thunder damage types. Spells that you cast that deal damage of the chosen type ignore resistance against it. On top of that, if you were to roll a 1 on the damage die, it counts as 2 instead. It is possible to take this feat multiple times, but each time you would need to choose a different damage type from the list. This is the only feat that mechanically supports energy damage types in all of 5th edition. It fits very well with subclasses that can specialize in specific damage types, like Evocation Wizards and Draconic and Storm Sorcerers. Even though it attempts to provide a minor boost in power level, I do have to point out that even when taking this feat, your spells will not overcome immunity. That is why many guides you find out there that focus on optimization state to ignore this feat and diversify your damage types. The reason I suggest to consider it is because it does reinforce a character fantasy of being an elementalist, which is sorely lacking in the game currently. Another thing to note, even if you diversify your damage types, having this feat to boost up your preferred spells that share a damage type with it still produces positive results. Now in regards to roleplay, as I stated, this is the only feat that supports the character fantasy of being an elementalist. The best way to play up this feat is having your character spend some off time learning to master spells that deal that damage type. Even while in combat, you can lean into the idea that your character is pushing themselves by using a spell with a specific damage type. As your character progresses, they eventually have a breakthrough and have mastered that element. My next feat that you should consider to take up is one that lets you take a dip into another class's spell list without having a multi-class. That feat would be Magic Initiate. When you take this feat, pick between the Bard, Cleric, Druid, Sorcerer, Warlock, or Wizard classes. Then choose 2 cantrips and a level 1 spell of your choice from the class's spell list. You can cast the level 1 spell at its lowest level once per long rest, and the spellcasting ability for the spell depends on the class chosen. Bards, Sorcerers, and Warlocks use Charisma, Clerics and Druids use Wisdom, and Wizards use Intelligence. As I just said, Magic Initiate allows a character to get access to spells from other spellcasting classes to add to their spell list. This is solid for spellcasting classes that share the same spellcasting ability score. Bards and Sorcerers get a significant boost to their blasting ability if they use this feat to pick up Eldritch Blast and Hex from the Warlock. For melee spellcaster builds that don't have access to Booming Blade or Green Flame Blade, this is another way to get access to those spells. If you pick up those cantrips by choosing Wizard, you can also grab Find Familiar to add some scouting capability for some out of combat utility, and to give yourself advantage by having your familiar use the help action in combat. Another thing to note is that you're able to choose a class with this feat that your character is leveling in, and by doing so, the level 1 spell you choose can be casted with your spell slots. For example, if you're a wizard and you choose Wizard for Magic Initiate, you are able to cast your chosen level 1 spell with your spell slots. This has to do with how the spellcasting feature works in the player's handbook. The spellcasting feature for each class states that the spells gained are associated with your class, and since Magic Initiate states the same, the spellcasting feature overrides a once per day casting limitation from Magic Initiate, given that the spell is from your class your character is leveling in. Now how can we incorporate or have this feat influence our roleplay? Magic Initiate is able to give a character a bit of flavor from another spellcasting class without needing to multi-class. You can use the inherent class narrative from a class you want spells from to tie this feat into your character. This could be a result of in-game events your character has endured, or your character's relationship with other player characters or NPCs. Maybe they made a sudden pact with a higher power deity, or became blessed by one of the gods and began practicing their faith, or they spend downtime hitting the books learning more about the arcane arts. For the next feat to consider for your spellcaster character, I would recommend taking a look at Resilient. When you pick up Resilient, you pick an ability score, and that ability score increases by 1 to a maximum of 20, and then you gain proficiency in saving throws with it. For a spellcaster, the biggest reason you would pick this up is to gain proficiency with Constitution saving throws if you don't already have it. This will give you a better chance at maintaining concentration on your spells. In the long run, having proficiency in Constitution is better than having advantage due to your proficiency bonus increasing as you level. When it comes to roleplay, you can play this up as your character training themselves, being able to maintain their connection to magical forces. Training could be shown a number of ways, either through low stress situations like meditation or high stress situations like sparring. Whether it be through physical or mental assertion, your character has learned to maintain their resolve to sustain their connection to spellcasting forces in the face of danger. The next feat on this list is Ritualcaster, another way for your spellcaster to add more spells to their arsenal. In order to pick up Ritualcaster, you need to have a minimum of 13 in your Intelligence or Wisdom ability score. When you gain this feat, choose between the Bard, Cleric, Druid, Sorcerer, Warlock, or Wizard class, then choose 2 level 1 spells from their spell list that have the Ritual tag. Just like the Magic Initiate feat, the spells chosen use the spellcasting ability from their respective classes. In addition to the spells you earn with this feat, you also gain a ritual spellbook that functions just like a wizard spellbook. You can add new ritual spells into your book from scrolls or other spellbooks. The new spells must be on the spell list of the class you chose when taking this feat, the spell's level can't be higher than half your level, and it must have the ritual tag. It takes you 2 hours per spell level and 50 gold to copy the spells into your ritual book. Another thing to note, again, just like Magic Initiate, you can cast these ritual spells with your spell slots if the class you're leveling in is the same class you chose with this feat. Even though you are limited to obtaining ritual spells with this feat, the spells you can gain provide immense utility. You never even use up spell slots as a resource because instead, you're using up in-game time. As long as your characters have the time, you're pretty much casting spells for free. While at the beginning you start off with first level ritual spells, you are not limited to only ritual spells of that level. As you level, you are capable of adding spells with the ritual tag into your ritual book that are of higher level. Wizard is usually the safest option as their spell list is expansive, but arguments can be made to pick up Cleric or Druid if you're looking for a divine or nature flavor for your spells. In regards to roleplay, the best way to incorporate this feat into your character is to have them to begin to study in their downtime. Maybe they found a book in a dungeon or spotted a book in a library that has piqued their interest. Just like a wizard, your character takes the time to study and to learn new spells, and will continue to do so even after taking this feat. The last feat to consider on this list is Warcaster. This feat is exclusive to any character that can cast a spell. When picking up this feat, you gain advantage on Constitution saving throws to maintain your concentration on spells. You are able to perform somatic components of spells if you have a weapon or a shield or both in hand. And if a creature were to provoke an attack of opportunity, instead you can cast a spell with a casting time of 1 action and they can be the sole target. Warcaster is a feat that is integral to spellcaster builds that mix it up in melee range. The advantage to your concentration checks is solid, but the most important thing gained for this style of spellcaster is the ability to hold your weapon in your hand and still be able to cast your spells. It doesn't make your weapon an arcane focus for your spells, so you may still need a free hand to use material components for spells if they require them. Often overlooked is the ability to cast a spell in place of an attack of opportunity. This ability alone is great for any spellcaster, as the spell you are able to cast isn't limited by level. So that means for melee spellcasters, you can fire off a cantrip like Booming Blade to trigger its damage effect, or if you're unfortunate to happen to find yourself in melee, you can fire off a crowd control spell like Hold Person. When it comes to roleplay, we can play this the same way that I suggested with the Resilient feat. Maybe your character previously or is currently partaking in martial training to be able to weave spells and martial combat together. If this is something your character will be learning currently, make sure to somehow showcase your character spending time training. You could use some downtime training either with NPCs or other player characters, or while in combat, you could roleplay your character developing martial awareness. It is often that you find many guides out there that will suggest foregoing feats for your spellcaster in order to increase your spellcasting ability to its highest point. This makes sense, as it's generally optimal for a spellcaster to increase their spellcasting ability bonus in order to support their spell saves and increase their chance to hit. On the other hand, feats provide additional utility, granting access to spells you may not have access to with your current class, or provide bonuses that enhance when or how you can use your spellcasting ability. When building your spellcaster, understand that feats for spellcasters play a different role in a character's build when compared to martial characters. Your character build will not be built around the feat like a martial class. Instead, the feats you choose will provide supportive enhancements to your spellcaster's abilities. With that said, I want to hear from you. What feats do you think spellcasters should take? If you want to see more content like this, let me know down in the comment section. You can also catch me at the Dungeoneers Pack Discord. A link to the Discord can be found in the description below. Alright, I'm out of here. Have a good one.